I'll kick off. Now, not a huge amount has changed from last year, so a few of you would be familiar with it, but it's good. You know, it has been a year, so it'd be good to get a refresher for this year. So, very quickly, for those of you who don't know, was Creative Europe. It's a 7-year program. It combines culture and media under one umbrella. It's 38 countries. And that's changing, so that number could be different at the moment. Offers funding for development of European films, TV programs, games, distribution, promotion of European films, festivals, cinema networks, training for culture and creative professionals, literary translations, cross-border, cross-border cooperation as well. So it's across the board in the culture and audiovisual industries in Europe. So the budget for those 7 years is 1.46 billion. Media has 56% of that. We have 14 different schemes. There's various deadlines for the different schemes, so it might sound like a lot of money, but when you break it down per deadline, it suddenly shrinks so much. So we offer funding for the media side of it, offer funding for development, training, markets, film festivals, distribution, new technologies, exhibition. You recognise some of the markets and training organisations here, from Screen Leaders to Cannes, Berlin, Galway Film Fair, Cartoon, Yave. So again, it's across the board in Europe. So, and these are some of the Irish projects that have been funded over the last few years, from 2x2, which was a very successful feature from Motion Films. And Local Apprentice, which is now a documentary, is going into Sundance. The Viva, of course, which was huge last year. Keith Can Do is Cavaliers program that was launched a couple months ago on RTE. Up in far left is Handsome Devil, which is due out soon. It's going to be in Ada, which is good. The Day Henry Met from Wiggly Woo Animation, which is doing really well worldwide, and they're gone into a second series of that. And then, of course, Song of the Sea, which you all know. And that one in the middle is Secret Scripture from Fernlane Films, which is due out later this year. Sebastian Barry's feature, which will be in the film, sure. So that's basically, you know, we're sort of involved in all aspects of the audiovisual industry here. So, back to today is support for European video games. So the deadline is Thursday, March 2nd. 2017, so that is 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks, so you do have enough time to get it in. And it's 11 o'clock Irish time. For all across the application and the guideline, you'll see 12 o'clock Brussels, and it might seem like very obvious to some of you, but you'd be surprised how many phone calls we get at 11:30 going, I can't get in, it's not letting me in. So it's 11 o'clock Irish time, so please keep that in mind. And hopefully you won't be going in on the Thursday anyway. Hopefully, ideally, you'll be going in a few days before. So how much can you apply for? It's between 10,000 and 150,000. And it's for the concept and project development of the eligible game. Okay, so that covers development activities only up to a playable prototype or a trial version of the game. So your max is 50% of the total eligible cost of the action. So if you're applying for 50,000, you have to show where the other 50,000 is coming from. So they can only do match funding, they will never go over 50%. And in the next deadline, there's 3.78 million total for the upcoming deadline. Now this amount has grown over the last couple of years. I mean, the first deadline, 2014, was 2 million, and then went up to 2.6. So they do realise that there is a strong demand for this, and they've been able to eke out some funding, some extra funding for it, which is really good. So, the results, to give you an idea so far, so 9.3 million has been given out over the last 3 deadlines, 579 applications. It sounds a lot, but there was 347 eligible. That means, can't do my calculations, but there was a lot of ineligible applications. So of that, 85 was selected. So you can see, like, they've had a huge issue over the last few years of a lot of applications going in where, like, we'll get into the eligibility criteria now shortly, but applications have to put so much work in didn't hit that mark, so which must have been painful for the companies.
Will you advise kind of ahead of time on the specifics of eligibility? Like if we were to approach you like in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah. I mean, we are here in, like the way the Creative Europe works is there's a desk in every country.
Yeah.
And so I am here in Dublin. Yeah, you're not alone with your application. You know, come to me, any questions at all regarding, you know, downloading the application to actually, you know, I can have a look through before you send it in. I mean, I'm here, like that's why I'm here. So please do, you know, use me for it. So, okay. So the Irish beneficiaries so far, in 2014, it was 3 applications, one successful, Story Toys, and they got 110. In 2015, 1 application, 100% hit rate in 2015, and that was Dreams Barn. And they got 60 grand. Now, the last year, we did 4 applications, and unfortunately, there were 4 unsuccessful, so we didn't have a hit last year. I think a few projects came close to the marks. It is a points game. We'll go through that. So just give you an idea of the way it's been running so far. So in the last deadline, as you can see there, so that's every country, that's 138 applications in the last deadline, 25 were supported. That's an 18% success rate, but of the 108 applications, 41 of them were ineligible. So when you take that away, it's actually over 25% successful. So again, it's a very big application, it's a very big undertaking to go through if you're not eligible. So make sure you're eligible before you put yourself through it. So when of them, 15 projects received over 100,000. Now it still means the 10 projects, if you do have a smaller game, 10 projects did get under 100,000. So you can see here, you know, we had 4, Italy had 4, we didn't get it. Finland as well, 7 didn't get any. You know, Spain, France had a small hit rate as well, but Norway had 4 out of 4. So it's, you know, there is a small amount, but it's across Europe as well. So just to give you an idea of the hit rate. That's right. So what is media looking for? So they're looking for independent European video game companies, which you are, with proven experience interested in developing a video game concept for project, presenting high level of originality, innovative and creative value, cultural diversity, enhanced Europe's cultural identity and heritage compared to existing mainstream works. I mean, that can be difficult. But, and then there's a high level of commercial ambition and extensive cross-border potential able to reach European and international markets. So they want to see that this game will actually do some business across Europe. So some projects that have already been funded in the last few years, to give you an idea of the type of projects. So there was The Witcher, and Wild Hunt was from CD Projekt Red from Poland. We have Fury from the Game Baker from France, Game Bakers. Force Showdown from Beta Dwarf from Denmark. Then this is still in development, it's Total Dark from the Chinese Room in the UK. Trine 3, which was from Frozen Byte from Finland. And then SteamWorld Heist, Image and Form from Sweden. So, if you're familiar with those games, then you'll understand the type of project that, this is only a sample of the project that have been funded, but I'll give you a good idea. So the type of project, as you've seen already, so it's a narrative storytelling video games, regardless of platform or expected distribution method. This is the main thing about this scheme. It has to be a narrative storytelling video game. So yeah, I'll go into what isn't eligible, but that's the crux of it, and because it's a cultural fund, this is what they're looking for. The story has to be told or shown throughout the whole game, not just at the beginning. I think the first couple of deadlines, it could be shown at the beginning, sort of setting up the world, and then it could go into a card game or whatever. But now they've got rid of that, so it has to be throughout the whole game, not just as an introduction or an ending to the game. So in all cases, the video game has to be for commercial exploitation, and the production phase must not start before 8 months after applying. Now this is across the board in all schemes, so I know you might think that this doesn't work for video games, but with single project and slate, film, TV, animation, this 8-month criteria is there across all. So there are certain things which you're going to have to, which might necessarily fit perfectly with video games, but it's the way media works.
Does that mean you can't start developing it for 8 months, or do they have the development phase before the production?
Yeah, development phase before production. So it can't go into production phase after 8 months, until 8 months. Yeah. So the way, so it also says here that the video game has to be for commercial exploitation. It can be a free game, but it can be in-game purchases and stuff. So it has to be some kind of commercial mission. So the guidelines, section 6.2. You're going to see this come up a few times. It's guidelines section 6.2. Because this will show you exactly what, this is detailed in that guideline section 6.2, because it'll tell you exactly what type of project we're looking for, like this narrative storytelling game. So what type of project is not funded is all of them. So it's not going to go through everything, but it's from card games to racing games and platforms. No platforms, actually just looking for games. E-books, memory games, running games, singing games, as well as multimedia art projects or websites or how-to works, no pornographic or racist material or application files. So there is a number of things that don't fit here. Puzzle games, mind games, all those things don't fit here. It's really more adventure games, the strategy games that this is for. So who can apply? So independent European video game production or development companies, or software production or development companies, not publishing or distribution. If it's part of your remit, that's fine, but as long in your memo notes of your company you have that it is a production and or development company, then you'll be eligible to apply. You have to be registered with the CRO or a similar organisation across Europe, just marrying the CEO for at least 12 months, so you have to be up and running. And you must own the majority of the rights related to the submitted project and or existing IP. The rights is a big issue with it. So then you have to have the recent track record. So what is the track record? So the company must have produced or developed a previous video game that is eligible under the terms in section 6.2, which has the narrative structure, right? And the proof is a screenshot of the game process. But they will check this. They will check to see if the game is narrative and what it says it is. They will check. So the video has to have been commercially distributed between the 1st of the 1st, 2014 and the date of the plan. So it has to be up on Steam or iTunes or somewhere else, but just make sure it's been live since 2014. And you have a sales report. So that is the only way that you can prove that this has been up and commercially distributed. You have to have a sales report. So the eligible cost, because it's development, so only activities, again, it's just purely for the development phase of video games are eligible. So the initial idea, the production of the first playable prototype or trial version. So the 4 main areas: rights acquisition, research writing, improving character design, level design, gameplay. And then production of a playable prototype, trial version, alpha version, and beta version, whichever comes first. Travel to meet potential investors, attendance at events and conferences, brochures. So they want, and then staff salaries, insurance. So in your budget, don't put all the money into staff. Don't put all the money into the actual creative side of it. It has to be, make sure that it is divided across each budget heading. That you are going to travel to meet potential investors. They want to see that. It's not just about the creative potential of the project. It's about the whole project itself. So make sure you cover that. So the cost within the proposed budget outcome from the date of the submission of the application. So you can apply tomorrow, that's fine, and then everything that you do from tomorrow will be eligible. But so just not before the date. So at what stage should you apply? So the beginning of the production phase must not be scheduled to occur within the 8 months of the date of the application. So this includes the testing and the debugging of your playable prototype as well. If you've already created or released a playable prototype with video games and you want to develop it further, it's too late to apply. So then it's the application time. So your first step is registering the portal. Now, I know some of you have dealt with this already and you'll be very familiar with that screen. For those of you who aren't familiar with that screen, it's a bit tricky once to put all your documents up there. You register, you get your PIC number, and then you can download the actual application form. So when you download the application form, fill it in, but then make sure that all your company information is up on the portal. So your memo on art, your certificate of incorporation, and then you go into the LEAR thing that those you're familiar with, you know. But then I'm here at the end, you know, you email me, call me if you run into any difficulty with that. So, and download the application form. Now I have a sample of the application form here that I'll just bring up now. So this is what it looks like. And the information here is from our company, the media office company. So when you download the application, you have to go do it through your portal because a lot of your information will be embedded in the application itself. So that's why you'll see our Media Desk Limited there coming up. So a lot of the stuff is already done there, very basic. See, it's easy, you know, all the work's done for you. So then it's the legal signatory, all the company stuff, aims and activities of the organization, straightforward. You're already on page 8, see it. And then it's the description of the project. So information concerning the project, the title, the genre, gameplay options, game modes, game platform, for consoles, handheld or others. You talk the language of the production language, PEGI rating, and then your creative team. So anything you have in place is good because you put up the information about your creative team, and then the requested amount, total production costs, submitted project. If it's co-production, put that in. They like co-productions.
Is there any issue with staff who are based in another country?
No, not at all. Working with your company, is it?
Yeah.
Or co-production? Yeah, no, that's fine. That would be an issue. Yeah.
So I'm not registered at Zero for 12 months, but the company that I make my project with are based in the Netherlands, and they are.
Yeah.
Would we be eligible then?
Yeah, the company in the Netherlands would apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would apply as a co-production.
Yeah, but all this information will come from that company in the Netherlands, and they would be co-producing with you.
Okay.
So all the funding, everything would be going straight to the Netherlands.
That's absolutely
They
fine.
would hold the majority of the rights. So yeah, but that's the way around it. There's always a way around it. So
And would my participation in that application still strengthen it, or?
yeah, I mean they love co-productions. So yeah, so that would work. Yeah, that
And
would
is the
work.
university involved as well? Should they be on the sheet as well, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk to you more
Okay.
about that then. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a bit trickier then. But yeah, they'll definitely get in touch with me about that. But they do like the whole idea of media and why it was set up is to cross borders across Europe. So if you are working with another country,
Cool. That's awesome. Thanks.
Okay, so then summary of the project. You know, once you know what the project is and you have a vision for your project, makes this much easier. If you're trying to cobble it together and you're still trying to figure out what the project is, it makes it a lot more difficult. So here's the ownership of rights. You don't send in the rights documents now, but they want to make sure that you have the rights, and then have to come looking for the rights documents that you have them. So you put in the information about those rights documents. So technical capacity, again, it's about the company, about your memo on arts, previous experience of the organization. So this is the project that you've already commercially distributed that would make you eligible. So this is where you put the details in here. And again, they're looking for the category, the genre of the work, adventure, role-playing games. So they do look into it in detail that it is a narrative infrastructure, particularly because it has been such an issue that they do look into it in detail.
Are we going to go back to narrative?
Yes, and Jari then will be going into more detail about the narrative from the gamer's point of view about how this works. Yeah, as well. Okay. So yeah, game, and then I mean it's very similar. And then team overview, then your evidence documents of distribution, presentation of the applicant company. You have 3,800 characters. It's very specific. So this is where you set yourself as a company. They want to see that it's not just about the project; it's about the company that you can actually pull this off. So any awards and like down to the company's management, right? company's activities since you incorporated, so the growth of the company and how you've built up an ethos of the company and the type of projects that you do, the type of projects you want to make and where you want to go. So if you know, present positions in the markets, if you have games out there, how they've done, and then the editorial line in terms of development and production, presentation of the experience of members of the company. You'll be working directly on the development of the project. This is very similar wording to film and TV and animation projects as well. So, so if it doesn't quite fit, if it doesn't, you know, so that's why. But I think you need to really sell yourselves and talk yourselves up. I think it's a failing of, it's an Irish thing, that we don't tend to talk ourselves up and, oh sure it's grand, and she'll tell you about last year, and oh I had a mayor last year, and oh I hope it's going to be much better this year, and you can't do that with this. And you know, if you see the word hope, just take it out. You know, be a lot more confident, be a lot more, they want to see confidence, they want to trust you, want to make sure that they can trust you with this money, that it's a viable option, that you are, chances are this will go into production, this will do really well. So be as confident as you can on paper, which can be difficult. But that's why I'm here. You know, you might think it's really confident, and then send it to me, get the red pen, and literally I will just give you, just from an outsider's point of view, of how it looks and the overall tone of it as well. So then it's down to the strategies. So development strategy, you know, your schedule. It's all about schedules, distribution strategy, how you plan to get this out, and the marketing strategy. I mean, how do you get it through? Like, there's so much noise out there. There's so many projects out there. Like, what makes yours different? How are you going to reach your target audience? Do you know exactly who you're aiming at, and how are you going to get to them? So that is what they want to see. They don't want to see that it's just going to come out and just, you know, be lost in the midst of everything else. What makes yours different? The target audience. So identify the envisaged target audience, provide key figures on your target market, and explain how you're going to reach it. So if the project is specifically targeted at young audience and not just suitable, please detail which age range is targeted, because you get, I'll go into the points, breaks down, it's all points game, shortly, but you do get 5 extra points if you have a game aimed at an audience up to 12 years of age. Now, there were 2 projects last round out of the 25 that were, that hit that mark. And you can't just say, oh, they love this, you know, and it's great and it's for 12 years of age. And they will go into detail how they, you know, it's not an automatic points. They will go into detail, they will look at your marketing strategy, they will look at where you're aiming at it, and they will see, is this where your audience is? Is this where that 10-year-old is actually going to see your project? Because if they're not happy with that, you're not going to get the points. Like if you're just doing it for, you know, if your market audience is actually, you know, teenagers, you know, they'll see that from your marketing strategy. If you know, if you're just chancing your arm and you're putting it in there, that's for young people, but then you will not get that 5. So just keep that in mind if you do have a project that could be of that age group. So there's the explain how the project would generate revenues, and then it's into the project team, experience of key members of the project team, specifying their roles and responsibilities. It's not just about the talent of the team, it's about how the roles and responsibilities are broken down, and how there's very specific defined roles and responsibilities for everybody, that everything is covered, and that you work well together, that your comparability, that it works, you know. So they are looking at that now in media a lot more so than before, because they do want to see the team works as a whole. So again, keep that in mind. So, and there's the finance and strategy, you know, how envisaged finance the development and production. So preliminary finance plan, mention the initial financial elements in place or to be confirmed. Anything in place makes it much stronger. Suitable potential partners and contribution of subcontractors to participate in the project. So They do want, yeah, anything in place that you have would be great. So so if you're applying for 50,000 and you need to show where that other 50,000 is going to come from, and then they want to see a preliminary plan. Like, it's development, things change, you know, so it's not going to be exact for the production, like how much it's going to cost, but they want to see you have that vision for it. They have a good idea. And then a capacity of innovation. Describe the innovative aspects of the submitted project. Content gameplay techniques. Any new techniques, and you know, viewers come up there as well. So you know, just if it's a little bit outside the box and not what's out there, that always helps as well. And then it's RAS budget, very straightforward, just those 4 headings like I mentioned before. And you get an Excel file, a template. Do your own. You can do your own, but you have to make sure that you submit this template. So at the end of this, so you have this downloaded to your desktop. At the end of the form, you have a place to attach all the other documents. So the first, actually I'll go through that. I'll go through each annex now in a minute, but that's where you attach your documents. Everything's there, and then you test your connection, you validate the form, and then once it's happy, then this button goes green, and then you click, and then it's gone. And that's it. You don't have to post anything in. The days of the phone books that you've been running down to the GPO, that's all gone. So you literally just send it, and it takes all the attachments with it. So to get back to what exactly.
Is that done, or can you edit it up to the deadline?
Oh, you can edit. Oh, and once you submit it, it's gone. Yeah. Now, if there is major changes and it is still before the deadline, you can email. Like you can request to make changes or submit it again. You know, they're pretty open to that.
So submit it a day or two before. Yeah, sure.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You'd be surprised at what can happen. Like you think it's you've loads of time. It's 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. It's not due until 11, but then your computer crashes. There's too much traffic on the site, and it's not uploading. You get these error messages, and you're like, what? So if that does happen, you take a screenshot straight away, because the screenshot will have the time, and then you get in touch with their technical help desk, who are in Brussels, who are great because they're so calm, because they're so used to dealing with producers at 10 to 11 or 10 to 12 Brussels time, and they're incredibly calm, and they're great, and they're at the end of the phone. But make sure you have that screenshot, and that's the only way you're in with a shot that if it does go over, if you have a major mare at that time. So try not to leave for the last day. Please.
Can you work on the application over time and save it?
Yeah. And you can share it and all that. Yeah, you don't have to do it all at once. I think that's somewhere, it's written somewhere, it seems to be, it comes up every now and again that people think they have to sit down and do it all at once. It's like, no, you wouldn't sleep for 2 days. It's like, no, you can't, you have to save it. Then put that. So, you download your application. So the annexes to be attached at the end of the form there. So Annex 1 is a detailed description of the project in a single word or PDF. Artistic material, pictures, graphic Bible, script, storyboard, then character design, director's notes, anything related to the creative side of the project, you put in Annex 1. So if you have like 5 different documents, you have to combine them all into one PDF, because you can only attach one document to each annex. So Annex 2 would be the detail.
Sorry, is there a size limitation?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
There's
For everything or each one?
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Which it can be difficult to try and condense it as much as you can. If there's, if you have any previous work, like links are great. Video links are, like links are fantastic. If the stuff is too big to be put here, you can put a link in with a password, a website, or anything like that. But yeah, the max is 10 megabytes, and hence the error messages. Like it won't go through unless someone made sure you have that figured out. So that's everything that's included in the application as well. So we got the detailed budgets, which is that it's a template Excel file. Declaration of applicants honoured, which is you just sign it. Track record of the applicant company. Again, it's a template. It's a Word doc. You put in any projects that you've worked on, any awards that you distributed, how much you made, that type of thing. And then miscellaneous. So miscellaneous would be anything that would make your whole application stronger. Anybody who's interested, working with a co-producer. If you're working with distributor, any funding you have in place, any letters, any emails of people who are interested, put them in here. They never like to be the first to jump, so anything that you have in place makes it much stronger. So with declaration of applicants are here. If you're applying for over 60,000 euros, you have to put in, things change. Anything on 60,000 or under, in Europe in the last few years, they changed it, so you only have to put in a declaration of honour. Anything over 60,000, you have to put in 2 years of accounts, your last 2 years accounts. So it's a lot more detailed if you're going for over 60,000. So again, all that goes on the portal. So any accounts goes up with your company accounts.
And what kind of big companies only a euro?
Then just put in the last, the last year. That's fine. Okay, so how the applications are assessed. They're assessed in Brussels and eligibility is checked. So, so if you're not eligible, they will, in Brussels, in the agency in Brussels, they will get in touch if there is issues, so that you'll know in a few weeks, within a few weeks, if it's eligible or not. So applications are then, once they're eligible, they're sent out to 2 experts. So these are professionals working in the video games industry to assess the application project, and I know Jari's going to touch on this as well about being an expert in this field. So this is a points game. Now, so as straight from the guidelines, so within the limit of the available budget, applications obtain the highest scores will be selected. So it's getting an A on your application. So I'm going to go through these quickly. So it's broken down into 100 points, plus 5 for the young people. So broken down for 20 points, quality of the content, storytelling of the project, originality of the concept against existing work. They're looking for original projects. So it's broken down there, so you'll see it from the quality of the storytelling, 10 points, quality of the content, 5, quality of the gameplay, 5. So you do have to go, the more detail you can give on your project, so you really have to know this project. If it's just an idea, it's so, it's far too wordy. You really have to have a good sense of what this project is before you apply. Like even down to adequacy of the gameplay to the storytelling. So they really look at all aspects of this. So then innovation is the second one. So the extent to which the project pushes the boundaries and offer proposing cutting edge techniques and content. So that's 20 points. So if you're working on any new techniques, this is also very good. So it's innovative techniques and innovative content. So from gameplay, new technologies, new platform, head-up display, HD, there's down, and then in the content, storytelling, your visual approach, your music approach, your sound approach, something that hasn't done before. So that's where the 20 points. And, I mean, that's an interesting part for the cultural side of it as well, what you can work with, and how you bring that, like from the music and the visuals. So then the development strategy then is 3. Potential for European international exploitation, including management of IP rights is 20 points. And so you got the development strategy, it's 10 points. Potential for European international exploitation is 10. So I think video games is it's a lot easier than some film projects to be that international. I think it's rare you get a purely Irish video game. That would only be of interest to people in the Valley Hub, So I think the video games it is more an international genre anyway. So transnational appeal, the subject and the type of game, potentially cross borders, taking the team, story and characters and strategies presented. They want to see that you're able to actually work outside of Ireland, that you're able to work with distributors, and you know how the industry works. You know how the market works. So once you can show that you know how it works and how to get your project out there, then that you really have to put that across. So then you've got the distribution, communication, marketing strategy. Suitability for the target audience, and it's that 5 points for the young people. So this is including accessibility features, again 20 points. Distribution strategy is 10. Communication and marketing strategy is 5. Suitability for the target audience is 5 as well. So it goes into real detail here. Now, bearing in mind that all of these points, this is what the experts get, right? It's very transparent. They don't get any more information other than what you see here. Maybe a little bit more. But really, this is how they mark it So they don't have a secret way of doing it and a secret code to actually mark your point. Like, this is exactly how they're going to have this open with your application, and that's how they're going to mark it. So the best idea is have this open with your application and make sure that you hit all these points, because that's exactly what the expert is going to do. So you have to look at this with the reader in mind, and that's the best way of doing it, to make sure you hit all of those things, because the more points you get across the board, it just builds up. So, and then the last one, the roles and responsibilities of the creative team is 10 points, potential of the adequacy of the teams in the project, and the complementary profiles in the creative team, like I talked about earlier. And then the finance and strategy, and the feasibility of the project. Can you do this? So 10 points, finance and strategy, and five each for the financing and the feasibility. Like, down to likelihood to succeed due to artistic qualities. Like, from your application, will they be able to go, yes, you'll be able to make this game, and yes, you'll be able to sell it. So they want to see that potential is going to production, potential to attract distributors, publishers. And the potential to attract distributors and publishers there, and sales potential and revenue streams. This is where you put your experience in. If you've worked with people before, you put that in. You put down any awards, you put down any awards and who you've worked with and how your other projects have fared, to really build up so that they are confident that your company can do this. So it's not just about the project. Project is a big bit, but it's also about the company. So these are the extra points. Is the 5 points up to the age of 12 and must be addressed in strategies. The results will be announced by August 2017. And then it does take a while. So it does take, we get famous. It does take a while, but they try to bring it down from 5 months to 4 months. But I think it's just the way it works. Be as transparent. Like, they have received a lot more. Like, over the last few years, it was longer than 5 months, because they received a huge amount of applications that they weren't expecting. So it did take longer. But hopefully it should be announced by August. But it has to go to readers, and then it has to go back to Brussels. So it's very hard for them to shorten that period. So if successful, you get 70% of the award transferred in the signature of contract. Like, within 30 days of signature, you'll get 70% of that into your account. And then the remainder will be transferred on submission of the report. So you have 36 months now. It was 30 months, and now you have 36 months, which is the development period of time. So if it goes into production before that, that's when you put in your report. But if it doesn't go in production, and if it stalls, and for whatever reason it doesn't actually get to that stage, you still have to put in your report. If you've spent it the way that, if you've spent 100% of it, you will get that 30% back. You can show it. If you haven't spent it, they will just bring that amount down. They will claw it back. So then that's it. So any question? My contact details are here. And like I said, and like we were talking earlier, it's like, you're not alone. And I know going through these applications, it can be very intense, and it's especially if you haven't done it before. And that is why we're here. That's why I'm here. It's like, if there is a question that you have that I can't fully answer right there and then, I'll get in touch with Brussels. Like, there's a very transparent, very good communication strategy within media to help you, because we want you to put in the best application you can. From my point of view, the amount of awards coming into Ireland would be great. I think that's what we want. Yes.
What was the cut-off points for the last round?
I don't have that. Do you have that, Jari? No. I'll find that out, and by the end of the end of the session, I'll have it for you.
In the application, you pick your funding bracket that you're looking for. Is it done in brackets, or can it be 10,000 or
anywhere between 10
and 46 euros?
And 150. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's budget based, so if it could be 70,000, but then you have to show whatever makes sense for your project. So don't just apply for 150 if your project really doesn't require that, because that'll straight away raise a red flag in the application for the reader. So
does that mean that there might be sweet spots in terms of, loads of people go for 150?
I think the average was 112 this year, but there were some you know, a few got 150,000, but they're really big, and I think it was Trying Go for another one, or there was a couple of projects, a couple of the bigger projects that are going in, that went in this year that got funding, that got funding for another game. But there are, you know, anything from 50 to 100. Yeah, there's no specific sweet spot because it is a better project, and it is based on what the project needs, and the reader will see that. And if you're asking for too low, they'll think, you know, does he not know that this is going to cost an awful lot more? Why didn't they ask for more? Or, you know, and then it might show that, well, they can only get matching funding for this amount, so your company isn't quite there yet. But then don't ask for too much either. You know, so it's all project specific, and it depends on the project. Anybody else? Yeah.
Regarding the publishing a project previously, does early access qualify in Steam?
It does. It depends on the project. Like, I mean, if it's, you know, let me know specifically, because there were, you know, I know pre-sales have worked before. There are things. It depends on the project, and it depends on how it's been done. So, yeah, let me know if that is the case with yours. Yeah, let me. Yeah. It's a matter. Sorry, I'll go. Yeah.
Yeah, just as regards the previous projects, so it's a 2-year. They look back 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
would so say in those 2 years, if you had worked in non-story, well, you had worked in puzzle games or other games, but before that you'd worked a lot in adventure. Would that?
As long as that adventure game,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're working on other games, that's fine. But as long as that adventure game that's going to tick your box was commercially distributed since 2014. Now, it could have been released before that, but as long as it had sales since the beginning of 2014, that's what they want to see.
So it could be something that was released 8 years ago and still selling, that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think there's a. I'll double check to see if if there wasn't. I know they brought it in with the other schemes. The other schemes would have to be production phase. It had to be produced within the last 5 years. But I don't think that's the case with this. But I'll double check.
Just as regards new companies.
Yeah.
So is it more targeted towards, you know, companies 5, 6? You know, it seems to be, or are you discriminating? You know, is it a level playing field kind of?
It is. I mean, the way that across the board with media, like with all the schemes, so that, you know, this is what this has been born out of is looking at the other schemes. That previous track record has to be there. Now with film and TV and animation, if that company is only up and running for a year, but the producer has produced a credit with another company, that could qualify. But with games, they can't do that because it's too hard for them to prove the credits of the games. So they can't. So it has to be the company. So if that's discrimination, you know, there's a certain amount of budget. They have to have some kind of, you know, cut-off mark, and unfortunately, that's where it is. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in terms of sales, museums and showcases would pay thousands of dollars to show my work. Would that count as sales?
I don't think so. It has to be commercial distribution, but again, I can check.
They would have then sold tickets to said event.
Right, yeah, no, because the actual game would have to be sold, you know, that's why it's like Steam or iTunes or, you know, that's where if it's free games, show that you in that purchase, you know, the game purchases, so it has to be the actual game itself.
Okay.
That's what's
And in terms of narrative, would stuff like Journey and Absolute qualify for those kind of narrative requirements?
I think so. Yari might be able to give a.
Must the research story doesn't have.
But the story can be ambient.
Yeah, it's got to be on the background, the niches, must just tell the story. It doesn't have to be words.
Yeah. Like there can be puzzle games.
That's very, that becomes very interpretational in terms of why.
Yeah.
As long as there's some sort of journey and some sort of change happens over time.
Yeah, but I mean, there can be, you know, puzzle games within the game, but you know, your character is still moving towards its goal. That's the. So like it can be broad, it can be vaguer than people think. So.
Okay, what about facilitating the players creating their own stories within the game environment? I'm trying to feel out the.
It can be, it can be a case of, you know, if the player, player can change the direction of the story.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like the original role-playing game. That but as long as that story is there and the end goal is there, but if which road is it? It's up to you to choose which road it's going to go. But the story's still there.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a huge effect on the actual story, but it's still a story. So.
Cool. But I would say that sandbox games themselves might have some problems with that. If there is not any kind of development or storytelling happening in the sandbox.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just trying to feel the edges here.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
If a game gets commissioned rather than having after sales, then it doesn't qualify as commercial or not.
Yeah. No, commission doesn't work. Yeah. Well, if there were actors.
If there was commission with, say, in-app purchases, that would talk about it.
Yeah, if you can show sales, yeah. I don't think that would be an issue. Again, I'll double check. But
and advertising revenue that count as commercial if it's a free game, it's an ad that's out there. So.
Advertising revenue?
Yeah.
This is revenue, but you have to show some kind of report from the advertising platform that there is some ad paid or something.
But you're making money from this.
If you're at least 8 months from production, you may have more or less in terms of concept art or even playable prototypes. Is that strengthened, or is there a minimum you'd want for the client?
Well, you have to have. You can't have everything done. Like you are applying for money to do a certain amount of work. So it's good that you have a certain amount done, because then the reader can get a good feel of the project. But it has to be, you have to make it clear exactly what needs to be done. Where it's creative or finance.
You don't want to apply with just pointing on some level of concept art.
Oh yeah. Some level of art, because it's very hard for the reader then to have a vision of what your project is and whether it'll work on an international stage. So.
If I may comment on that,
Yeah.
the main feedback I have had from the readers is that one piece of concept art really tells more than 1,000 words.
Yeah.
It is very, very difficult to have an idea what the game is about without some kind of pictures, concept art or something.
Yeah, you can see from the even the pictures of the games, like you see straight away what type of projects they are. If I can find it. Bear with me. Like even from them, you can see immediately what type of project it is. There. So you can see straight away, even from that, you can see what type of project, that they're not aimed at 5-year-olds, that, it's not, So, yeah.
Sorry, this is.
No, for yourself.
Okay. So, Steam sales are eligible.
Yeah.
I missed. What about direct sales to institutions and stuff like that? If I've sold them hardware and software.
Well, it's a project.
Yeah.
It's the actual project itself. So they're looking for a narrative that you have previously produced, a narrative storytelling video game.
Yes.
That has, so it's not
That I've sold them
the
directly.
software. Yeah, that you have made money from that.
Yeah.
There's but it's not the software. It's not the,
Yeah, but I mean, when I say software, I just mean the game.
right.
itself,
Yeah. Again, talk directly about that,
Okay.
and we'll see exactly if that fits.
So I think the more general version of that is a really specialised game that mightn't have a market to the general public, but does have a market for institutions.
Yeah. So I've sold like a copy to Thorsten and then 3 copies to a university in the Netherlands and 1 copy to the university in Switzerland.
So the game requires custom hardware, so it's not really like you can distribute it on Steam.
Right. I need to check that. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I'm sure there's other people with similar, problems. Is there clear criteria yet for the first playable prototype? So that the line between development and production for games has always been very fuzzy for me. I asked this last year as well.
Jari is the best person then, I think, that you'd be able to
It is indeed the industry is moving quickly forward, and this kind of borders are blurring at the moment. Unfortunately, this instrument was built from perspective of film industry, where it's very clear.
Yeah.
So my rule of thumb would be that as long as it's not out, you are not soft launching it, you are not making it public, as long as in your company, that should be fine, because it's very tenuously working with that.
So early access, that's too far.
That's definitely
Announced?
So,
Are you talking about perhaps?
announced, and it's
That's too far?
Well, like
But if you're talking about it from
well, you
the
can announce
get
as
go,
long as it's after 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, so that's the line.
Yeah.
We need to be working on it in private bit for you.
Well, if you announce that it's ready like in 10 months.
Oh, just say we're working on this game coming out in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
That's
That should be
okay.
fine. I see it because that's
So it is a bit fuzzy, isn't it?
yeah, but so as long as the game itself is not available, it's not in any kind of soft launch, testing, in like beta test or something like that. Alpha testing.
Yeah.
Yeah, regarding owning the IP, but I think I understood seeing The Witcher. The Witcher is based on a series of books originally.
yeah,
So if we are licensing the property, like for example a pen and paper role-playing game universe, we can still apply even though we don't own the rights. We are licensing the rights for the game for our day.
yeah.
Otherwise, CD Projekt should refund. That's
It looked like you could put in the budget towards acquiring those rights.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
That was called out in the kind of budget was acquiring rights.
yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it is very specific that you have the rights, whether it's licensing or you have those rights to develop.
There might be the difference between the rights of the property and the rights of the game itself. Like that might be the
Yeah.
well, if The Witcher is qualifying,
Yeah, but I mean, they might have had the actual rights to the book. They might have acquired the rights to the book.
well, the license is
The
from
rights.
the author
Right,
of the books.
It's the exploitation rights, yeah. They might exploit this as a game entity, whereas somebody else would be
Yes,
rights to exploit it.
yes.
And the movie, somebody else has the rights to exploit it as a cartoon. So it depends on the category you target.
But this works. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
we're
most cases-
licensing books which are or game or role-playing game rules.
Yeah.
Properties should work.
Yeah, as long as the rights are airtight.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
I've done it. So,
Yeah. We've been to the process a couple
Yeah.
times, so yeah.
To what extent do games need to have cultural diversity of European culture, or what counts as that?
I mean, it's like, with a Force Showdown or Steamroll Heist, not necessarily. If it does, it that's what they want, and that's what they wanted originally. It's very hard. But if you do have that, I mean, Ruins of Arran, Alan Duggan had Ruins of Arran, so perfect, It's like he's actually made a video game on Ruins of Arran. So, so ideally you will get extra marks. I mean, there's no point saying that you won't. Because that ideally is what they're looking for. But it's very difficult. So, to have a commercially viable game that's, based on a cultural aspect is really hard. So, but, if you can make that work, great. That's why the music and visuals and all that can come into play there as well.
So we applied last year, it felt a bit like a bit of a long shot at the time, but how we're going to apply again a lot more robust this time, I think, as a project. But since it failed, is that something to be completely avoided? Like you have to apply with a completely new project, or
No, you don't have to apply with a new project. I mean,
That's good, yeah.
you would have gotten good feedback
yeah,
the last time, and I think the feedback has gotten a lot better over the last few years. So you take all that in consideration. You take all that into account. The project will be another year further on. So the reader, even if they didn't know that your project, even if they didn't know that you'd already submitted, it's in the application, but even if they didn't, it's another year it's been in development, so you would expect it to be further on. So, you know, in another year, I'm sure you've got a lot more.
Well, that's it. That the companies come up further.
And just address those points. You know, just make, you don't have to say, well, the reader said this, but just make sure that the issues are addressed in your.
But it can be the same name, project, same thing.
Just as regards the sales, is there an amount? You know, is there an idea for the more, or is it just the more the better?
I mean, it's to tick the box. And once you do commercially distributed, whether it's 10 or 100,000 sales of a previous game, it's still commercially distributed. It's ticking that box. Now, whether a company who has a project that's, you know, sold 10 games, you know, that up against a company sold 100,000 games, that brings into another. Raises another issue about company, but to tick that box, yeah. Exactly.
Then with downloads, the feature, if you large numbers of
downloads, if it's play, yeah. I mean, if downloads, if you have to pay for them, or if there's like as long as there's some kind of revenue stream, because I mean it is a sales report. That's the only proof that they will accept sales report. So straight away you'd see that there has to be figures in there. So yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, is there a marketing budget that like you would suggest to assign to the project, or?
I mean, it's 5 points. I don't know. Would there be a percentage that you would suggest? It depends on the project. It depends on where you're. You know, if you're trying to look at different new markets, like, you know, obviously it's going to be more. It depends on the project. Depends on the company. It depends on if you already have a very strong fan base and you already have good ins there, so you know once you put it up, that word of mouth will just spread it straight away. That your marketing budget might be less than if you're starting a brand new marketing budget.
So again, keep in mind that this is marketing for everything before the first playable profile. So no user acquisition, no that kind of marketing is more about marketing material for investors, for example. And then some kind of high press.
But then once the game is launched, you would be doing user acquisition.
Yeah, but that's not eligible acquisition.
That's not. Oh, I'm so sorry. After we added the acquisition, okay, fine, cool.
But I mean, you can, you know, to build that with consumers, so to build that, you know, anticipation or whatever, then it can be that side of it can be as long as it's in the.
Okay, it's more right.
Yeah, and the cost wouldn't be eligible, but they would be looking for a marketing strategy for how you're actually going to do it after the game is launched.
Okay.
What's your plan then? So those costs won't be eligible, but they are looking for that strategy.
Okay.
As well.
On that topic, it's like you can talk about the marketing strategy, but does the marketing budget have to be within what you're applying for? Like you could say, I'm applying for this amount, but our marketing budget will be outside of that. Would you do that, or does it have to be built into it?
No, it would be built into the development of it. Now, marketing wouldn't necessarily be part of the development.
Yeah.
So it's part of, like, you'll have a finance plan and finance strategy. So in your finance plan for the production, it might be but that's the finance plan. Yeah, no, because you wouldn't be putting in a production budget. No.
Yeah.
So this is all for pre-production. So if you go for €300,000, where you would be asking for 150 from the grade,
yeah,
there would be none of that.
That's all development. Yeah, exactly. I'm confusing myself here. Yeah. So it is down to just the development. Yeah. Anybody else? Now, Yari, so we're going to have a short coffee break, and I hope we didn't scare you all off. And Yari will be here anyway, and he's very in tune with the scheme itself and all the other funding. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll start the stream again now in a few minutes. We'll stop it for now.